Hello and welcome to another Stompy 51 miniature adventure. Today I'm going to give a quick visual summary of a game of Mantic's Deadzone I played earlier this week. A clash between the GCPS, who are basically a bunch of evil corporates let loose in space, and Mazon Labs, which is basically an evil corporate let loose in space that's gone nuts with evil science. And I don't know what it says about me, but obviously I went for the Mazon Labs faction, being the Wayland Yutani of this particular Mantic setting, focused of course on robot droids. Alright, so let's dive into the range of miniatures from which I drew for the game. These are some little robots from Heresy Labs, which are 3D printed. I printed them up, I think, I can't remember exactly, but it was like an extra sort of 10% just to make them a bit more chunky. And they're so cute, very redolent of the Care Bears, but instead of tokens of love and cuteness on their tum-tums, as you will recognize them, these are Adeptus Mechanicus transfers, which I got from the Castellan box, which has enough transfers for a small army, which is great because that's basically what I've kind of semi-printed off. Anyway, where was I? So, this dude I'm using as a Cyborg Prime. He's a construct, and he has only Tactician 1. At the beginning of the game of Deadzone, you roll a number of Tactician dice, which kind of allow you to do kind of extra cool things. Not too different from command points, frankly, in the various Games Workshop games. But he's only got Tactician 1, so he's not the most brilliant tactician, being just a robot, though that may have been before ChatGPT came to the fore and people realized that they're probably just as good tacticians as we are. Anyway, so he's got a Stinger Bolt as a close combat weapon, which, you know, I mean, look at those big chunky fists. I mean, it's just a weapon that's close combat, and armor piercing 1, and then it's got a charge burst, which I'm just going to say is a kind of thing that beams out of this little apparatus on his back, but for the rest of them it's more obviously that, and that's a range 2 laser. I mean, that looks like a range 2 laser. Remember, there's cubes in the game, and I mean, the whole board is only 8 by 8 cubes, so this is range 2. So, you know, we understand it to be close combat. So he's basically the boss. Then these guys played the role of cyborg beaters. Unfortunately, none of them seem to have a flamethrower, but I painted this dude in any case. You'll see that I used an idea suggested to me by Jerry from On Tabletop, because I wasn't sure how to make the faces, whatever they're called, the screens, look like they were properly glass. And he did recommend one particular paint, but I couldn't find it for less than about 12 quid on eBay. But I did find plenty of water effect resins that you could paint. And so that's what I've used on all of these. And I think it does add something. I mean, I did paint these screens red and then kind of flicker various scratches on them by mixing a lot of yellow into the red and just streaking it back and forth. But now that I've put this glassy stuff on it, you know, you don't have to worry, because nature and the glint of the light sorts out your highlights for you. Anyway, so that's them, and I took 5 in the list. I love this kind of alas poor Yorick one, you know, who's got a bullet through the face and he's just trying to work out what's gone on. Not that it bothers him. Anyway, so that's them, the Cyborg Prime and the Cyborg Beaters. Then I thought, you know, those are all close combat, and we need to make sure that we've got some ranged. And so I took all 4 of these, and these are from a sculptor, 3D sculptor called Moid on My Mini Factory, and I printed these out smaller so that they'd fit a 40mm base. And I use these as laser rifles, and these as missile launchers. And the missile launchers are properly funky because They are explosive, so they automatically hit the cube they're aiming at, and they're frag 3. So you roll 3 dice, you need 4 pluses, and everyone is a hit. And then every single person in that cube, and hopefully you've hit multiple people in the cube, they may take damage. Remember, they're rolling 3 dice against your 3 dice. And if you're rolling 4s to hit, they're normally rolling, say, 5s to save on a d8. So there's a chance of doing usually like 1 wound on a person. You rarely kill someone, but you can send them all flying. And then when they hit walls and stuff, it is obviously very satisfying because they take even more damage with the walls, causing damage as well. And then there's obviously the stars of the show. I only managed to take 1 in the list, but these are Castellans, which I thought I would paint white and have fun doing the chipping. Then my opponent, Mr. T we'll call him, who's a bit of a painting genius, said, yes, but now that you've worked out how to do this kind of packaging material chipping, you then need to highlight it by kind of, whatever the material of the armor is, whatever the color of the armor is, you then just, draw little lines underneath the chipping to highlight the chipping. I was like, but this is white. And they said, yes, but it's a shaded white. You will have a full white you could use. But anyway, I don't know. You've got to draw a line with these things at some point. So I'll see how I feel. And there they are with their kind of glassy screens and their claws reaching out to touch someone and crush them. Now, one of the joys of 3D STLs is that you can obviously just knock these things out, which I kind of have done. That's how big they are against an orc, in case you wondered. Crunch orc. And there's loads of them, so I might use these also for Xenos Rampant, which also has loads of funky rules for robots. And my favourite one, strangely, is this one who's had its head blown off. But as, the major operational stuff is still in the tum-tum, he's kept on going. The top is just an 80s TV screen. I may print even more, as is the want of any miniature addicted gamer. And then finally I found a role after many years for this Mark Copplestone sculpted bio droid, whatever it's called, because in these rules there's I can't remember what they're called, Cyborg Alpha, and they're a bit better at close to close combat, I think, which obviously is what that thing is. And what will I do? I think I'll just use the contrast paint white as I did here, but then I think I'll paint the head black, possibly this massive casing black, the shin pads black, the bio metal stuff, a kind of silvery metal color along with this blade, probably this casing over here for the weapon black, so it'll be black and white. I'll chip the black, chip the white, and then I might put a massive AdMech sign. There must be a big one on that decal sheet. I'll put it on the back there. And he can walk around being the kind of super killer. I may even do that next because it's quite fun. And then paint these little things red to show and put the water effect on them so they look kind of sheeny, shiny. But anyway, one to get around to. Right, so the game, Deadzone version 3, playing the divide and conquer scenario, whereby it's quite limited deployment for both sides on both edges of the board, and on the left and the right, quite high value objectives placed in 4 of the cubes. So you've got to basically race your guys there and make sure your guys are sitting on those turn after turn, so you accumulate points. You get points, of course, for killing the enemy. The bigger they are, the harder they fall and the more victory points they're worth. And whoever clocks 16 victory points first is the winner. So as you can see, my opponent has a load of gumps, some marines, all for the GCPS, the Global Co-Prosperity Sphere, whatever weird World War II Japanese sounding commercial concept that is. But he loves mortars. He loves mortars. There's one hiding behind there on the left and one there on the right. And he just loves watching my various guys sort of flailing about. And I thought he'd be bringing them. And so I brought all these robots who all have armor 1, resilient, which means you can reroll 1 dice for their saves. And of course they are constructs, so they basically land on their feet and don't get pinned, though they do still get thrown around. But the thing is, I had to place all of my guys, and there were so many of them kind of in groups, and I was a bit annoyed and worried, because what he tends to do is flies someone to a point like that, then puts down a marker so that they can kind of see through this kind of, I forgot what it's called, I don't know the name of the rule, but basically the mortars get line of sight through the person who's kind of laid down the kind of marker. But I'm wise to that now. There's the sergeant, whatever he is, with backpack, that yellow dice, that's the marker. But then I realised, just get out of there, just start, just move people so they're not clumped up and there's no obvious target, and obviously move away from the marker light, or whatever it's called. Standard known tactics, he's got a couple of bikers, and they rush towards the objectives on both the east and western sides of the table. You can see them there, 2 points per turn that you're sitting on them. But I go out to greet him with some of the wobots, the bad wobots, who have close combat 1, armor piercing, not that it's necessary here against human gumps, and I never really shot with them because those little lasers on their shoulder quite nicely represent the I think they're called shock bursts or something, which only have a range of 2 cubes, and so they never really shot anyone, but they did squish them with their little Care Bear fists. And there you can see his other bike rushes out to the right flank as I look at it, but I send out 2 little bad wobots to go and intercept, slower though they are, and unfortunately if they kind of walk out from their position where they currently are, they would get gunned down. And you can see a little bit better what's happening over here. We've spoken about the bikers on the left and the right having rushed out, been intercepted by the bad wobots, but I kind of also advanced up the center. I also jumped up this little Spidey over there. You can see he kind of got shot back down. I leapt him up onto that cube. This is a properly 3-dimensional game. Mantic's Deadzone is great fun. So quite cinematically, the kind of spider with his gun just pointing out like a little nosekins. He jumps up onto there, takes a pot shot, and I think caused a little bit of damage, but unfortunately that laid him open to the entire fire from my opponent, because they all could draw line of sight to him, and he basically got shot down to within an inch of his life, but still survived. Having said that, you may remember at the top point over here, the highest point on the table, that's where my opponent sent his jetpack fellow who kept putting down a marker light to give line of sight to the mortars, and I felt the right thing to do was to just take the Strider, you can see at the bottom of the table there, and just gun him down. And he didn't die, but he kind of fell backwards with the jetpack kind of supporting him from kind of being crushed to death from the fall, kind of, ghost in a shell, just falling backwards. There's so much terrain, which is kind of the point, that you don't always realise that you've exposed someone to being shot. And so his beloved mortar at the top of the table there didn't quite anticipate that I could obviously move my walker a humble 2 cubes and then just let rip into it. And that seemed to kill him, which was fantastic. And it was kind of at that point that we realised that my poor opponent had failed to bring anything at all that was armour piercing. And so much though his marines and grunts took pot shots at the wobots, the reality was that he wasn't really causing them too much damage, whilst they just inexorably walked forward. And you can see that on the right flank, they've taken out the guy on the bike, taken out a Marine and are about to take out another Marine. And the other thing is that my leader, who you can see is just hiding down there on the bottom right, has a splat ability. So you basically roll these command dice. Some of them allow you to have an extra move. Some of them allow you to to chain move another person after someone that you've gone, to add a dice to a roll, to kind of soup it up, to get an extra attack, to get an extra shot. But one of them is like a kind of Mantic symbol, the Mantic logo, I think, which is a kind of splat. And if you deploy that, you get to use the kind of special ability of your leader. And the special ability of my leader was that after one of your cyborg guys has gone, which was only the robots, unfortunately, not the Strider or the kind of Spidey robots, but the main robots, after one of them's gone, you can remove the gone token from another one, and they can then go again another time. And so anyone who was in the middle of doing something important, like ripping the head off of a biker or getting an important shot, well, after they'd done that, and you'd moved a few other people, you could just let them go again. And if you've rolled 2 splats, well, you can do it twice, I believe. Well, I hope that's right. That's what we did. So anyway, the tide started to very quickly turn in my favour. And with these robots just camping out on 4 victory points, a turn for a couple of turns, and me basically having most people able to shoot every turn, they started to just take out, opponents and creating victory points from that, as well as from sitting on the objectives. At which point we decided to call it, because I hit 16 victory points, but to give a bit more of a game to the poor GCPS, I let them have another turn, just to sort of take a few. We each had, it's basically I move one person, you move one person. So we had one more turn, just to let him see what he could achieve. And, his Marines ran out, and they did take out those 2 guys in the centre, by which point, though, I'd already won. But thank heavens, like the Murphys, my opponent wasn't bitter. And at the end of the game, I thought what I need is more miniatures. And was it wise? Whilst in the store, I picked up a Leviathan box. Though, frankly, what I've been about for the last few weeks has been painting lots of Team Yankee Iraqi tanks. We are getting there, very, very slowly. At which point, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you as ever for watching to the end. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. I have so many more miniatures. Did I tell you? I've got a lot more miniatures. And I'm slowly making my way through them honest. And if you want to leave any comments, I'm always open to it. Great to hear thoughts, feedback, and just what you're up to. Keep well, keep safe, and I hope to see you again soon.